Hola, it's Charlie T back again with another video. If this is your first time seeing my channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Charlie T. As I just said, we are Black, we are queer, and we are here. Please subscribe. Don't forget to press that notification bell so you'll be notified once I go ahead and post my next content. And then please like the video if you actually like my content. It helps me a lot. In this video, we are going to be reviewing episode 5 and episode 6 of Love is Blind France.
What did you do to your hair? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Just how you. This by far has got to be one of the best I've ever seen of the Love is Blind franchise, because not only are the guys messy, like, because usually in the Love is Blind, like, series, like, the guys are always messy, and no shade all tea, very disappointing more than half of the time. But in this, for Love is Blind France, the girls are just as messy, okay? When I tell you they are a mess. We're going to start off with Thomas and Kim. So we left off from episode 4 leading into episode 5, where Thomas and Kim was having a disagreement. And it was mainly on Kim's end due to the fact that she decided to insert herself, Julie and Charles's relationship, due to the fact that Sarah, whom was one of the other women Charles was dating back in the pods, was not chosen, and that is her friend. So she decided that, okay, I want to have my friends back. I want to question Charles to see why he decided to choose Julie. What is the reason? What was the reason? And Thomas wasn't here for that. He was like, listen, that is none of your business. I don't care. You shouldn't care. We're here together. You should be focused on us. And the thing that got Kim was the mere fact that he made a comment. Thomas said, poor Julie. And Kim was like, what? Poor Julie? What do you mean, poor Julie? Why? Like, you should have my back. And so that started this whole thing with Kim saying he's not loyal. She, wanted them to be on the same page. And so I guess she really gave it to him off camera, because we didn't see how deep it got, but Thomas was boohoo crying, like tears just flowing down his face. And he was like, I think I made a mistake and I don't want to do this anymore. And then even in his confessionals, he went on to just express that Kim was comparing him to her exes, saying that, you're not loyal, loyalty is everything to me, and you're doing just like they did. And so he just felt like everything he was doing at that point was not enough, like he was not good enough for her. So what then ended up going on is later on that night, they went amongst each other into their part of the hotel, and she expressed to Thomas that, she did not want him to feel as though he was being compared to her exes. All she was saying is that she wanted him to have her back. If he was going to disagree, that he should have waited to disagree with her and have a conversation with her in private. Because for her, like, having a front, like unison front is everything. She's like, okay, we at least need to show in public that we're on the same page and that we are on one accord. Like, that is it. And if you disagree with something, or if I disagree with something, we gonna talk about it when we get back to the house. But we not about to have these other people look at us like we crazy having a public disagreement. She apologized for coming at him the way that she did. She acknowledged that she was in the wrong, and she just expressed to him that she was just hurt. That was all. And Thomas was like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I'm glad you understand where I was coming from. And we're able to move on from this. So later on, they're having lunch, I believe, or maybe dinner. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty bright outside, so it could be either or. Thomas decides to mention to Kim that, well, he first asked Kim, like, are you going to move back to Paris with me? And she was like, yeah, of course. He's like, okay, but just so you know, I'm only going to be around for 3/4 of the time because I have my daughter. And when I have my daughter, it's for a whole week. And I have to travel to her for that, like closer to where she is. And so Kim was saying, like, she's fine with traveling. She's very mobile with work. And Thomas was saying, like, okay, good, because it's very important for me, um, for you to come along while I have her, you be around and, really be in our life, like as a family. Kim expressed to Thomas that she very much so is on board with that. However, she is kind of stressed, or she made it known that right before they do go about seeing his daughter and her meeting his daughter for the first time, that she will be very on edge and stressed due to the fact that Thomas' daughter is 8 years old. And she's like, at that age, children are typically like used to a certain way of living and how they were brought up. And they just know what they want, what they don't want or want to deal with. They have, a certain way about them that they just are going to be very vocal. And I'm just making sure that she's actually going to like me. Like, do you think she'll like me? And so Thomas assured Kim that yes, Charlie will like you. Um, like she is very much into clothes and she likes to keep herself together. She likes to pamper herself. And so Kim was like, oh, really? Like, okay, that's good to hear. So she has great sense of style and likes clothes, and I can take her shopping with me and we can go get massages, we can get pampered. Like, that'll be great. I would love that. So she was all here for it. And Thomas was like, okay, great. I'm glad that Kim is excited to, meet Charlie, and also just making sure that she actually likes her. That lets me know that she's really serious about this and becoming a family. Like, that makes me even more happy. And that very well, that conversation very, very well. Continued on into episode 5, leaving off from episode 4, where you initially saw that Cynthia and Jonathan weren't at the couples gathering at the campfire outside. They end up coming later on to the party, and you see Cynthia approaching Sabrina and Kim, telling them about how Jonathan and herself got into a huge argument about heels versus flats. And she was just explaining, like, it really wasn't a big deal to me, but it was the mere fact that I had initially asked him prior to this whole argument and even me choosing to wear heels, that he said he was okay. He didn't care if I wear heels or anything. So the fact that, like, all of a sudden he started this huge problem, we're meeting everybody for the first time. He was like, he doesn't want to get clowned and everything. It shouldn't matter. And if anything, like, you should want me to feel comfortable. And she was like, but at the end of it, I just decided to wear my flats just to just go along with things. And I understood to a degree where he was coming from. But he should have just said that to begin with, like when I initially asked him if it's a problem. And Jonathan's, and he was talking to, I believe it was Charles and Alexandre. He was just explaining on his end that he saw it as a red flag with Cynthia, that she didn't think about it as like common sense for her to put herself in his shoes and literally and being like that they're meeting everybody for the first time, that she should want to wear flats and everything. And it's like, dude, you guys literally had this conversation prior to you guys getting ready for the festivities. So when you told her that it was not a problem, then obviously it's not going to be common sense for her to think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't wear my heels because Jonathan's going to have an issue with it. No, you told her you won't have an issue. So there should not have been an issue. I'm just saying. Comes to Julia and Charles. Julia is having a conversation with Chloe on her physical attraction with Charles. and she is wanting to know, like, is this actually going to change? Because I am liking him emotionally, but physically, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if we could just hang things up. And Chloe was just letting Julie know, like, you got to take things one step at a time, the way that you see fit is comfortable for you. And I hope that he is just patient enough for you and letting you know that it's okay to take your time. And Julie was just explaining to Chloe that Charles has been very much so patient with her and understanding, because they haven't even slept in the same bed still at this point in time, because Julie has not been ready to. And so you fast forward and to where they finally, Charles and Julie finally have a conversation over eating. Julie had asked Charles how he was feeling about what had transpired that morning, in which Charles had stated it was a little bit rough, but I am okay now, like we're good. And then you hear how Julie was saying that she was very grumpy, and now you see how I am firsthand being grumpy, but you were great at handling me. You really calmed me down. You know how to communicate with me. You're very patient. You're very kind and caring. And Charles was just explaining to her that she has been very much so the same person that he met back in the pods. And that person that he met back in the pods is the person he wanted to marry. And the person that he is on a honeymoon with now is still the person he wants to marry. And Julie was just showering Charles with love at that point, telling him that he has been everything that he stated that he was back in the pods. And she really, at that point, she said that Charles had earned her trust and that she is literally having no more expectations with him, as she's very comfortable with him now and starting to really fall for him. The only thing you see in episode 5 with Van Me and Sabrina is a little talk with Sabrina with all of the girls. I think mine is Chloe at the poolside, where Sabrina is explaining to them that she wouldn't mind waiting to get married in order to have sex with Van Me, because they haven't even, oh, it don't even sound like they gone past first base. She said, culturally and everything, she is fine with taking her time. It's never been a rush for her in her past relationships to sleep with somebody. And so she said, I'm good. I already know what I'm working with. Bambi has a very nice body and he has moves. He can dance and everything. So I'm not worried. I have no doubts. The only thing that Sabrina was bringing up to the girls is that she needs a lot of words of affirmations from Bambi, in which it's her own insecurity. She's let it be known from the very beginning how she is with feeling insecure physically. And so she needs to constantly hear how, basically, how attractive she is and everything. So, from Van Me, in which she's not currently getting. Yannick and Tatiana have a conversation at first about their schedules, trying to align how often they will be able to see each other. They were taking a bath together, and it was during this time that Yannick really got to see how busy Tatiana is majority of the days of the week, and she only literally has like one day where she's pretty much almost free in a certain time of the afternoon or evening. And Yannick was like, all right, so we're going to set this in stone now, that we're going to choose this day and this time from then on every single week for us to have our quality time with one another. And I thought that was nice. It's very much so a conversation that needs to be had with any couple, of how often you're going to be able to see your significant other. And then you also, I want to say it was prior to that, you have where Yannick was very emotional during his confessional when he was outside at the pool, outside their hotel. He and Tatiana were having a conversation the night prior about how she is as a mother and her life as a single mother, balancing work, being a business entrepreneur. She has two hair salons, and then she has her son. She takes to school by herself, and then along with that, she takes him to all his other activities. And so Yannick, just knowing how it was for his own mom being raised by his mother, he was saying that he got a bit emotional. He saw a little bit of his mom in her. And so after a while during his confessional, he had called Tatiana outside and she was asking if he was okay, like what's wrong, giving him a hug. And he was just telling her basically exactly what he had just said in his personal confessional at the pool. And he had then asked, because he was very emotional, he started crying and had asked Tatiana if it was okay for her to see him cry. Like, because some women are not into what they would call mushy or an emotional man or soft man. And it's a really a bad thing that happens within the Black community. Unfortunately, for men, they feel like they always have to be hard, and the moment they get a little bit emotional and cry in front of other people, let alone women, they feel like, oh, they're going to be looked at a different kind of way. It's just as soft and not a macho masculine man, and that should never be the case. So when Yannick had asked Tatiana if she was fine with him being emotional and crying and how does that make her feel, she was embracing it. She stated that, I love that you feel comfortable enough to express how you're feeling and to cry, be emotional. I really do love that. And I was really thoroughly happy with that scene. Later on in the evening, where they're out at a cabana, they then have a not so lovely conversation about more so where they want to move to. And Yannick was stating that he didn't like that Tatiana was forcing him to move to where she is, because when he had brought it up, she said, well, it's no option. I have no choice but to be where I am, and you would have to move to where I am because I would not be driving over an hour to take my son to school from where you live. And for Yannick, he was upset more so for the fact that he wasn't given it as an option or as a way to be heard out for another kind of, basically to like meet in the middle in some kind of way. She was just like, if something's forced on me, I'm going to run. And for Tatiana, she got a little bit emotional, like, and shut down the conversation at that point. She did not want to talk anymore. She was saying, like, you're acting like I'm forcing everything on you just because I have a son, and it's being a single mother, that's a full job within itself too, and I wish I had the option to really give you, but I don't. There's a lot of things that I can't negotiate, like they're non-negotiables as a single parent. And Tatiana, just for me, girl, you got to take your time to listen a little bit more, a little bit better before you start lashing out and getting all emotional into your feelings, because this is not even the first time she done had this issue with Yannick. Even back in the pods, Yannick is expressing how he's feeling to her, and then all of a sudden she's taking it the wrong way and she is flipping the hell out. Like, girl, calm down. It is okay, Bookie. It is okay. And one thing about Yannick, he is going to express how he feels, but he made it very, the way he expresses feelings is very considerate, and it's also very caring. It's not harsh. It's not anything to take in a negative kind of way at all. It's more so an expressive way. Like, he seems like, based off of what we've been seeing on camera, he seems like a very much so aware individual and what he wants. in a relationship and what he needs and how he is as an individual, it's very apparent. And how he wants that to come across to Tatiana, but Tatiana isn't exactly always hearing it that way. And yeah, I'm gonna just need her to work on it a little bit. Alexandre and Chloe on their last night, well, everybody's last night, but on the last night, they're at the bar. Alexandre just looks like he does not want to be there whatsoever, like at all. And Chloe's asking him, is he happy being there? And he's like, yeah. And Chloe's like, yeah, I am too, in this beautiful hotel and with you. And crickets on his end. So Chloe's like, well, I only asked because you've been a little distant lately. And like, she said, I'm wondering where your head is at. Are we in a good place right now? You haven't been really affectionate lately. So I'm wondering where I stand with you. And Alexandre responds with, yep, I know, right? Like, just very short and very, very just uncaring. Like, he doesn't care. And so Chloe just asked him to tell her exactly how he is feeling because she doesn't want to guess. Like, she's into him, but she doesn't want to run into a wall either. And so he expressed to her that he's been thinking that he does not maybe give enough to her to how much she gives to him. That has been something that's been on his mind since yesterday. And that she was right to what she was saying. So then Chloe gets up, she begins to get a little emotional and walks to an oversight. And Alexandre proceeds to follow after her and asking if she wants to be left alone or if she wants to talk. And then Chloe just says, like, look, I'm not chasing after no man, okay? I love you, but I refuse to do this. And Alexandre was like, no, I know that, but you asked and were stating like where was my head, and you had stated that I have been less affectionate lately. I've been a little distant, and that is true. That's because what's been on my mind is, have I really been affectionate with you that much compared to how affectionate you are with me? And then Chloe stated that there are a lot of times when he's super affectionate, but then there's other times that he's not. So it's less of the affection itself and more of the consistency of all of that affection that he does supply. So then that's when Alexandre goes into how he grew up. He never seen his parents kiss, hug, admire each other, tell each other that they love one another. And then along with that, he goes on to say even in his confessional that he finds that putting his feelings into words is a bit too soon. He takes his time with that, especially when it comes to love. Being with Chloe for just only a few weeks back in the pods and then only for a few days on the honeymoon, he finds it weird that you would say if someone would say that they love you out loud. And also though at the same time, he's scared of love. And Chloe expressed, yes, I'm scared too. It's okay to be scared, but we're in this together. I just want to make sure that you think we're compatible still and that we're gonna be able to work this out. And Alexander reassured her. He stated, yes, I believe that we are definitely compatible. I see a lot of myself in you. That I like that we are able to have a lot of these authentic moments like the one we're having now. In which Chloe said, yes, we definitely are right now having one of those authentic moments, and I want to continue to see where things go. They finish off the conversation with a hug and kiss. Bada bing, bada boom. So episode 6 starts off with Cynthia and Jonathan. Jonathan is going in the house. Cynthia's having a seat in the living room. Apparently, they had dinner on the last night. They got into a huge argument according to Jonathan, he was stating that for the last 4 days, every single one of those days off camera, there has been a problem. And that Cynthia on camera has been a nice person. Off camera, she's very nasty. So it's not the same person that he met back in the pods. And he is more so scared of the fact of her just randomly blowing up on him again, because every single time they do get into it, she has an attitude. She gets angry very quickly. He stated that she's very aggressive and violent when she speaks, that he's human and nobody should be spoken to the way that she talks to him and degrades him. And he was like, I had enough of you insulting me. We not about to continue this conversation. And then I was like, I'm not insulting you. I'm just bringing up what the issue is. And then Cynthia then says, well, no, for me, I refuse to be in a relationship with somebody that wants to be codependent. I can't be with somebody like that. And every single time I try to express my feelings to you, suddenly you always become the one being hurt. And I feel like you created this toxic environment for us to be in, and I don't like it. And Cindy was like, look, I know what really happened. You can try to say that off camera and on camera I'm different, but I know what really happened. You can try to save that face for now, but at the end of the day, I stay true to who I am. Jonathan leaves, and he states to he says in his confessional, first person he's ever met a day in his life, and that he doesn't want anything to do with her ever again. He doesn't even want to see her, and that he feels like she never cared for him at all. And then at the same time, he stated that he is sad because back in the pods, they had a really good bond and connection, and he was looking forward to that. But now he is okay with leaving things how they are now, and he does not want to continue being with somebody that has been showing him what he has been seeing since they got to the honeymoon. In which Cynthia, on her end, she's in the dining room very emotional, just saying that she was very shocked by everything from him, and that she is sad because she really did like him and connect with him, and she knows that he has a lot of love to give that she wanted to be the one to receive. But now here they are, and it's just going to take a while for her to get over their situation. Thomas is catching up with his daughter a bit on the phone. You have Kim talking on FaceTime with her mom. They set up a date for Kim's mom and sister to come over to their house, and which later on goes very well. Basically, Kim's mom gave Thomas her blessing. The only issue at first was the tattoos, because culturally for them, they associate tattoos with bad boys and rebels, and that's not something they roll with. But they got to know Thomas. Kim's mom and sister got to know Thomas, and he was able to reassure Kim's mom that she's in good hands. She'll be well taken care of. He knows how to handle his money and everything, and she'll be a great stepmom to my daughter. This is how we plan on moving forward as a family. And so Kim's mom was very pleased with that. And then later on, you see them walking her dog, because Kim has, I don't know how old the dog is, but it's like her own kid. And so she wanted to see if her dog would actually take a liking to Thomas, in which her dog did. So she was very much so happy about that. And that was it. Alexandre and Chloe. Chloe was very proactive with making plans with her family and friends for them to come over to her in Alexandre's apartment. And she tells Alexandre, okay, so my brother-in-law and my sister are coming on this day, and then I got 5 to 6 possibly close friends of mine coming over on this other day. Are you okay with that? And Alexandre was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And Chloe was like, okay, so what about your people? What about, your friends and family? He was like, well, I haven't gotten to it yet because we've still been trying to settle in. And she was like, oh, okay. He was like, but I guess I'll hop on to that sooner rather than later since you already started. And then you have Alexandre explaining in his confessional, like, as much as he enjoys Chloe being proactive with the planning of her family and close friends coming over, meeting them and everything, he would have been appreciative to be more involved with actually doing the scheduling. So rather than finding out after she already did the planning, he would have liked to be involved with that. Chloe's sister and brother-in-law come over to Alexandria and Chloe's house, well, apartment, and they talk, they get to meet, and later on, you see where Chloe's having a private conversation with her sister in her room, just telling her how she has told Alexandre many times that she loves him, but he has yet to say it back. So Chloe's sister is concerned, like, so is he ever gonna say it? Like, did y'all have a conversation about this? How is he feeling? And Chloe's just like, well, yeah, we did recently have a conversation. He expressed to me like how he grew up. He never has been around expressive love, and let alone like heard it like that. And it takes time for him in general. So eventually, hopefully, it does happen as long as we continue to take these proper steps. But for Alexandre, he just wants to make sure ain't no steps being skipped at all. He just, because they're in this experiment and experience, he's just like, I'm not rushing for nobody. I'ma take my time. So that's where they leave off with that. And then you move forward later on to find out that they're the ones that's gonna be hosting the next gathering for the other couples. Tatiana and Yannick, they go over to one of Tatiana's salons, and she is introducing Yannick to her staff and really just letting him know how hard she has worked for her businesses and how she has to balance that with her son, taking him to school and everything, and how she really loves what she does, but she just wants somebody to share that with. And Yannick was glad to see where she works and see how she is as a boss, and just really enjoying to be that person, potential person to share that with. And then you move forward to where Tatiana and Yannick go meet up with some of her best friends. They don't show the actual meeting, but you get the aftermath of where they're getting back to the apartment, and word on the street is no, they say it verbatim that Yannick used to date one of Tatiana's best friends by the name of Erica. Now, Yannick expresses that he only met Erica through a blind date, which was from his sister-in-law, because otherwise he never would have done it. But when he met Erica, they hit it off. They dated no more than 6 months. And for Tatiana, she was like, this is just so weird. Like, this is awkward for me now because this is literally like one of my bestest friends. And my son calls her auntie. Like, that is just, like, I don't know how to deal with something like that because I'm not one to date any of my homegirls' exes. And for Yannick, he was just like, well, maybe you dated somebody I know. And she was like, well, there's a difference between dating somebody that's your partner knows versus actually really, really close to. And Yannick was just trying to explain to her, like, look, regardless, that was some time ago, and also it was only for 6 months. And Tatiana was like, okay, I mean, I suppose I'm gonna have to wrap my head around it because she's never even told me about you ever. Like, I never heard her mention your name or anything. And so Tatiana would said in her confessional, she was like, I'm not even inviting her over anymore because that's just going to be weird. I don't want them to have any inside jokes and start reminiscing about the past, be hee hee ha ha, and now I'm over here looking stupid. Like, no, that's just too weird for me. Julie and Charles sleep together in the same bed for the first time. Now, I don't think they had sex. They could not. But I just mean in terms of finally sleeping in the same bed because, as you already know, Julie and Charles at this point had not slept in the same bed at all due to Julie just wanting to take her time with the process. And so they finally slept in a bed, same bed for the first time, and she was very much happy. She was expressing in her confessional how in love she is with him and how she is starting to be more and more physically attracted to Charles. And Charles, he was already gun ho for her, so there was no change there. However, they did go into Charles's old neck of the woods. He shows Julie a flat that he used to live in, and since his mom had died, I believe he was like 16, 17, so he's been out on his own since then. And he was expressing to her how many jobs he had to work to try to keep things afloat, try to at least keep a roof over his head. Sometimes he did not have hot water, let alone water at all, and then he wasn't able to afford food all the time. So he eventually was able to have some friends that, i.e., I think being some neighbors that were able to provide food for him sometimes and donate food to him, just so he doesn't keep being hungry. And he was just telling her that that place is what helped build him become the man he is today. And Julie was just very appreciative of him sharing that. Lastly, you have Sabrina and Van Me, who have by far the most like drama this episode. Sabrina and Van Me go to Van Me's job, and he is showing her his office, and she starts to just ask him the clientele that he has, and which for him is the general public. And so Sabrina is expressing like, okay, I understand clientele, like obviously you're gonna have some hot women, that's fine, but just as long as it's literally for work. Like I don't wanna have to be scoping around here in the lobby and be like, hey, don't worry about me, I'm just over here in the corner, just, observing, like, girl. And Bammy was just saying in his confessional, like, I already knew from the jump back in the pods, she expressed to me how possessive she can be, but I didn't know to what extent that would be and like how intense it is. But I'm gonna work it out. We gonna get through this. In which then later on, the remaining couples are at a party at Alexandre and Chloe's apartment, and Kim and Thomas are sitting on the couch next to Venmi and Sabrina. So Kim proceeds to ask Venmi, is he still connecting with Sabrina the same way he was in the pods? And Venmi was like, yeah, we definitely are. And Sabrina was like, well, yeah, it took me a while at first on the honeymoon to adjust just because physically he wasn't my type. I'm not into Asians. However, over the next few days, I found him very attractive, sexy, and handsome. And Kim was like, oh, okay, well, how about you, Benmi? Like, was she your usual type? And he was like, well, no. I typically date olive, olive skin and dark hair women. Most of my exes have been that way, but I do find her to be very pretty. And Sabrina was starting to overtalk him a little bit, and she was like, well, you called me cute. And Kim was like, ooh, not cute. And she was like, we need to be called beautiful. And like, we need to be reassured. And Thomas had stepped in a little bit, which like, well, no, I'm sure when he said cute, maybe he didn't mean gorgeous. It was another way for him saying gorgeous. And maybe he was like, yeah, that's what I meant. Sabrina was like, no, 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 Thomas. I've been with this man. I think I know him better than you. He said cute, that's what he meant. But I want to hear I'm beautiful. I want to hear I'm gorgeous. Like, I want to hear outright. And then Fanny and Sabrina just started going back and forth because all of a sudden it became this thing that Sabrina decided to bring up about him showing her his exes. And Fanny was like, well, you showed me your exes. And she was like, but you showed me first. And he was like, that's because you asked me. Otherwise, I would not have showed you. What would be the point? She was like, I saw all these exes of yours, none of them looking like me. And you're saying, like, you're pretty or you're cute, but you're not gorgeous enough. And he was like, I never said that. She was like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. So you got Kim and Thomas now looking around just so awkwardly, like they want nothing, no parts of the conversation anymore at that point. Like they like, whoa, we did not expect this. And Kim is saying in her confessional, at some point they should just stepped outside and had their own conversation, handled it in private because it blew up out of nowhere. And so then you have Van Me and Sabrina still going back and forth. So then Sabrina gets up. She's like, you know what? Let's handle this outside real quick because you not admitted to anything. So they go outside real quick. Not even outside. They go outside the door of the apartment, and they still are in disagreement. So then it leads right back into the apartment. And then Sabrina is saying that she sees how Bambi looks at Kim and she doesn't like it, but she doesn't have anything left to say after that. It's no comment. And Bambi at that point was looking so confused and upset with her. Like, he's had enough of her shenanigans. And he was like, you know what, you the most beautiful up in here. How about that? And she was like, yeah, whatever. And then the next morning, they have a conversation. Sabrina stated that she regrets how she went about things and that she does apologize to him and that she should not have aired their dirty laundry out to the public like that. She should have waited till they were by themselves, but it was something that has genuinely been on her mind. She has been feeling insecure and she wants, those words of affirmation. And Vinby told her, like, he understood that she wants to be comforted. However, it should not have escalated to the point of where it did at all. And he accepts her apology. It already happened. We're going to move forward. But we at least now, Sabrina then said, like, yeah, I'm willing to move forward. I'm happy we had this conversation. And again, I'm sorry. We at least know each other's boundaries. And so Bambi was like, yeah, all right, good. But in his confessional, he was like, I'm glad she apologized. She was, doing deep reflecting. But at the same time, deep down, I'm like, this relationship got some cracks. Like, this is weak. Because if you can blow up that quick, so randomly, who's to say that won't happen again or when it'll happen again? That makes me nervous and that makes me want to put up my defenses up at that point. Oh, we gonna have to wait for episodes 7 and 8, y'all. Till next time.
Where'd you go? Oh, you know